what happens when you get a professional filmmaker, someone who's put out films all over the world, and said, look, we want you to shoot this, but you can only shoot it with a smartphone? Hey everybody, what is going on? Now, you know on this channel from time to time, we like to talk about cameras, videography, photography, smartphones, all those encapsulating content creation, right? But what happens when you give a smartphone to a professional filmmaker, someone who's made films that have gone all over the world, and you say, look, we want you to shoot this, but you can only shoot it with this smartphone. What can come of it? Well, that's exactly what Apple has done. And they've done this for a number of years with various different iPhone iterations. But this year is about the iPhone 13 Pro, and this film is very special to many of us who live in Singapore, like myself, because it's about the iconic dish chicken rice. Who makes the best chicken rice? How is it made? And documented from somebody's eyes who doesn't live here, but who's been here before. This filmmaker, you've seen his work on Netflix, from Chef's Table to Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Give it up for David Gelb. Hey David, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm great, man. This is exciting. This is very exciting. I saw your short film about something close to a lot of our hearts here in Singapore, chicken rice. I mean, the food culture here is absolutely amazing. And you've traveled all over the world, I'm sure, researching food and diving into different cultures. What was it for you that stood out with Singapore?
Well, I think that the story here, the part of the story here that I was really drawn to is passion. And both from the hawkers, the people in the markets who are making this food, to the customers, there's a ton of passion. And in Singapore, people are very passionate about food, and they're very passionate about chicken rice, as you can see in the film. And so that's like perfect fertile ground for a dramatic story.
Definitely. Now, was this the first time you were in Singapore, or were you here prior to that?
I went to Singapore once before. We did, on my show Street Food, we did an episode based in Singapore. Nice. So I knew about the place a little bit, but I really love it. And I had such a fun time shooting this.
Okay, so getting into chicken rice, what's your take on it? What's your, do you have a favorite after testing both of these out?
Well, it's tough. We have great sauce. We have beautiful rice. One is a little fattier on the Aputure side, and then there's a bit kind of like a leanerness that's going on with Tian Tian, but I think they're both fantastic. And so, as we say in the film, we leave it to the audience to decide. But the incredible thing about chicken rice in Singapore is that there are so many different takes on something that is fundamentally similar that everybody can find their favorite. And,
yeah. It is very cool. It's something that we do discuss a lot here. We talk at lunch what we're going to have for dinner and what's the favorite place to go for dinner. Then we do it at dinner, talk about breakfast and lunch. It's just a circle of life when it comes to food. Very interesting culture. Let's talk a little bit about why this story about these two hawkers, though. What was it that sort of drew you into this?
Well, I think, again, it's the passion, and it's about what it means to them personally. Mr. Wong loves what he does, and he does it in his very specific way. And then you have Miss Loy, who is trying to build this into a business and expand the reach of what she's doing. And so you have kind of an old school way of doing things, meeting kind of like someone who's pushing it into the future. And so I think that that's a really interesting kind of fertile ground, as I said before, of like, there's drama, there is, it's kind of like a microcosm of a lot of like conflicts that are generational conflicts that happen within restaurant families. And so we just thought that this would be a lot of fun to make, and something that would be exciting, and also with beautiful food.
Of course. And, speaking of like generations and just old style, I got to look at this backdrop here that you're in, and it's absolutely beautiful. This is the new Apple Tower Theater in California.
The Apple Tower Theater in downtown Los Angeles, restored into its former glory. I mean, it's got to be the best video chat background ever, I think. And I mean, I was like, oh, does this look like a green screen? Like, are people going to believe that this is real back here? It's totally nuts. I love it.
It's absolutely amazing. Apple should make this and put it onto every Mac that they sell as a backdrop for chats, for sure. It's beautiful. All right, let's get down to it. Let's talk about the tools of your trade. Now, can you walk me through a little bit when you're normally shooting these documentaries? What do you shoot with usually?
Well, typically we use a large camera system that requires a sizable crew. Starting from Jiro Dreams of Sushi, a big breakthrough in the tech camera world was when you were able to shoot things that look like it's shot on 35 millimeter film, but in fact is digital. I shot Jiro on a Red 1 camera. It was a big breakthrough at the time, back in 2010. But it was a big step forward because you could shoot, you could make it look like a film. You didn't need to have all the camera assistance and everything, and you could do slow motion. And these were things that I was drooling over as I was a film student before I was a filmmaker, and I wanted to make things that really looked like movies. So that was a huge leap forward. And so now I feel like here's another leap forward with the iPhone. iPhone, you have these incredible tools that are comparable to what you use in a large format system, with a lot of advantages, which I thought it was really kind of an interesting challenge.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because looking at your past work and then obviously seeing this film, it's really interesting how you've used the iPhone and really maximized its features. And let's talk a little bit about that. Where was your first initial impression? Because obviously we carry a phone day in and day out. We use it for Instagram. We use it for social media. We use it to communicate with families. But when you're sort of brought into this and saying, you need to shoot this on an iPhone, or can you shoot this on the iPhone? Did you have reservations? Were you scared? Were you like, I don't know if I can do this?
Well, yeah, I mean, because, I'm used to having, a much different kind of toolkit. But then iPhone 13, there are certain features that were just okay, this is what is going to make this possible to still shoot in my style using this tool. So when I'm using a big camera, I love shooting on very shallow depth of field with cinema lenses. So when I found out about cinematic mode and how I can choose focus, I can create a shallow depth of field, and then taking it a step further, now I'm able to, and this is something I can only do on iPhone, I can change that depth of field in post. So whether I'm doing it on camera, I can tap and let it rack focus the way I want it, but then I can adjust that timing in post, and that's something that's just never been done before. So that's a big plus for me. I love shooting with shallow depth of field. I love focusing in on the most beautiful part of my frame and then letting the back kind of fall off out of focus and have that beautiful bokeh in the background. So that was a major, major plus. Then low lighting capability. I was like, this is a camera that, because with the big cameras and these prime lenses, sometimes you lose quite a bit of light. In this case, I'm able to shoot in very, very lighting situations, low light, and it records beautifully. And I think that those were two of the major factors. Now, finally, macro mode is a big part of what I do. I'm always shooting on macro lenses, shooting close-ups of food. And so this tool on iPhone actually was quite useful. And we were able to really get in there and get closer to the food in perfect focus in a way that I wasn't able to do with a previous iPhone. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was watching it because obviously, depth of field is a big factor. And that's always one of the things with smartphones is it's always been this feature that you just could tell when something was shot on a smartphone versus a regular camera. And I was using, and how you implemented cinematic mode was interesting because I didn't know. I thought at times I thought maybe you were using manual focus or racking focus, or maybe using a different app to sort of get that field, or maybe another lens. There's third-party lenses out there to adapt. But you didn't do any of that, right? It was just basically cinematic mode?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that was something that I wanted to do because, there is a huge aftermarket for lots of accessories that can go on iPhone. But I really wanted to I really wanted to push the device itself to its limits. So the vast majority of the piece is shot in cinematic mode in the native app. And it performed brilliantly. And we found ourselves being I just want to shoot it on cinematic mode. I want to shoot everything on cinematic. I'm obsessed with cinematic mode. And that's what I've been looking for a long time in a device. So you have this kinds of size of the thing. And then the other crazy thing is just the ability to, and I don't know if you saw the behind the scenes that we did, but you can see how we attach the camera to butcher knives. We're hiding cameras all over the kitchen. You can kind of get this intimate behind the scenes moments without them even noticing that the camera is there. So that's a very, very cool feature of the size of the device as well.
Yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit about that too, because I know when, sometimes they say size matters and when it comes to cameras, especially when you're shooting with clients, when they see you coming with a big rig, they feel like their money's being well spent. But there's the also other side of it, which I personally experienced, and maybe you can attest to this or not, is that it can be very intimidating to people that aren't used to being in front of the camera when they have a massive camera set up and lights and all these people around. So did you notice a more of a comfort level with your, with the participants in the film when you're shooting with an iPhone versus, let's say, a Red, for example?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that makes a huge difference when you're filming people who are not used to being filmed, because they have a device too. It's not like some alien thing. Like, they know what an iPhone is. There's nothing scary or crazy about it. It doesn't feel like there's like this kind of single large eye like staring at you. So it creates a sense of intimacy and kind of casualness. But with iPhone 13, it actually does look like a movie. So it's pretty awesome.
Thoughts about the process when they were editing it?
Well, we wanted to keep our process and this is part of like the challenge that I kind of put, that was kind of posed to us and that we challenged ourselves with, was let's do our normal shooting workflow with iPhone. Let's take iPhone and take it to the professional level. We're very proud of our show Chef's Table that has always been, we were one of the first shows in 4K HDR. It's something that we've always taken pride in our work, is pushing the technical to its limits. Yeah. In this case, we were like, let's just take iPhone and put it through our normal workflow process. And it was really quite fine. I mean, I don't think that our editor really noticed that much different, except for now we have the ability to change depth of field in post-production, which is another, it's one more thing that opens up some possibilities for us, which we thought was interesting. We used our Chef's Table colorist and everything turned out great. And you can see it in the skin tones that, it looks quite natural. And for me, when I watch it, I'm not really thinking about the format so much. I'm just watching a story. And that's what I hope that our audience gets from it.
Because I didn't even know when you shot cinematic mode or not. I had no idea if you used another app. It just was seamless. And it was really beautiful to see that come into play, especially with, people always think that there's this hindrance with smartphones, but I think this is a testament that you can actually push the boundaries. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about sound, because sound is a big factor in this film. And obviously you're not using the internal mics on the phone, right?
In this case, we would run the internal mic in case you could capture something that's in a proximity. Sometimes we're just shooting on the fly and we're capturing some sound through the internal mics, which we were surprised at how well they were working. But for interviews, things like that, again, not to break the feeling of what we're normally doing, we do have a sound recordist and we're using external mics, but it's syncing up very easily with the sound. So I'm basically taking my Chef's Table crew and shooting on iPhone and just being like, how does this camera work for us? And in the case of sound, it was quite easy to just sync up the sound afterwards, but there often was usable sound, ambient sound that we took off of the iPhone itself that worked fine.
Any last words for filmmakers that you would give, or advice that you would give out there that want to do something like this, that maybe are thinking they need to buy all this expensive gear? Anything for them?
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I wish that I had this when I was making Jiro Drinks with Sushi, because it would have made my life so much easier, and I would have an incredible beauty in my shot quality. This film was made really, I didn't put any cages. There are maybe occasionally I'll use an ND filter in a very, very bright environment, just to bring the overall brightness down or something like that. But really, this is a naked phone shooting these shots. We're attaching it to things is really the main kind of accessories that we're using. So, what I think is that it kind of democratizes filmmaking in a way. Yeah. If you're able to get your hands on a device, and to be honest, it doesn't even have to be a Pro, the entire iPhone series, I think, has a number of these capabilities. You can make a movie from soup to nuts. It makes you have to worry about the financing and the money and all those extra tools less, and focus more on the story and on the character. So if you have a device like this, if you have iPhone and you have a great story to tell, you find a great character, that's really all that you need. And I think that's really exciting. And I think it opens up the field, because these tools like slow motion, low light, cinematic mode, a macro, it's all available now at a much lower, price point, that I think it opens up the field to a lot of young filmmakers. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with.
One last one for you. Okay. You've done this. Apple's obviously very happy. They've worked with you before. If they asked you, they said, David, what's one thing you would love to see in another iPhone? What's one feature for filmmakers? What would that feature be?
Well, I think that pushing forward, I love this direction of cinematic mode. And I just want to see, and I expect this to happen as iPhone 14, 15, as the future unfolds, that you'll have more shooting capability. You'll have more options within this mode. which I think is really exciting. So to be able to shoot cinematic mode, even larger format, being able to shoot cinematic mode in slow motion, and this is what I expect that the future iPhones will bring to us. So I'm so excited about the future as well.
All right, David, thank you so much once again. And we hope that you come back to Singapore now that flights are available. We can travel again.
I know Singapore Air has been emailing me. They're like, come on back. And I'm like, I'm tempted.
All right, David, thank you once again. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on the film. And guys, that's it. David Gelb on this awesome Chicken Rice Wars here shot on the iPhone 13 Pro. David, thanks and take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Oh man, that's fun, man. That is awesome. I love it. Love it. Learning about filmmaking from somebody who does this on a much bigger scale, but just using the iPhone 13 Pro. How cool is that? All right. If you guys like this video, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button as well. Stay safe out there, and we will chat to you soon. Take care.